You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Haney, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell, Big Nate Sports Talk podcast. This podcast. My apologies. This is episode 452. This episode, we're switching up a little bit. We're going back to the NFL side of things. I know I promised a few weeks ago we were talking about recapping the NFL draft, particularly the Washington Commanders, the Baltimore Ravens. Finally playing the game of catch up on that. But before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. You should have seen 451. Episode 450 should be out already. If not, I'm going to hurt one of my producers, figuratively, not literally speaking. That's myself. I take full responsibility in having that episode not up by now. I should be ashamed of myself. 450 should be up by now. I do have a couple more interviews coming out soon, hopefully. So keep staying tuned for that. We are winding down of week 1 of the WNBA season, so stay tuned in for that with Brendan Potts. Hopefully have him on the podcast sometime this upcoming week. 453 will be the Baltimore Ravens. More than likely I'll record that tomorrow as we get this upcoming Memorial Day weekend. I would like to take a moment to thank those that have served, past, present, and future. Thank you for your service, what you've done for our country. Let's get right into it. Also to follow me on Twitter, check out the great content on TeamNBSMedia. I put out an article in response to some of the vitriol in the aftermath of Robert Griffin III and Ryan Clark. So check that out if you don't already. But I cannot do this episode alone. I got to bring on my guy, Mr. Sean Spencer, host of Watch Football Weekly and one half of that dynamic duo of Let's Talk Football. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sean Spencer. Sean, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good. Good to see you, as always.
You too.
Yes, sir. All right, Sean. So you know what it is. Washington Commanders. It was an interesting draft. Looks like I think for the most part, we're kind of set in stone. We kind of have the second part of free agency coming up. A lot of people coming into this draft was a little concerned. Like, what do you do with this draft, especially building on the success that we had? But just want to get your thoughts on what did you think of the draft for the Commanders?
I mean, overall, you only have 5 picks, so there's not that much you can do with it. Me and, a couple of the Washington people were, kind of hoping at some point we would have traded back potentially, since there wasn't anybody that we were really after, similar to, as opposed to last year where it was like everybody knew we needed a quarterback, you need JD5. So we kind of thought we were going to trade back and get some more picks, but they didn't. They were specific with each of the 5 picks they got, and overall I'm happy with it.
Yeah. before we get into, I do want to break down what Washington did have, what they lost. So we had 2 third-round picks that we traded to the Houston Texans that were from the Dolphins via the Eagles. We had a 3rd-round pick that was traded to the Saints. We had a 4th-round pick that was traded to the Saints. A 5th-round pick traded to the 49ers from the Saints. Another 5th-round pick to the Eagles, and then another 5th-round pick. A 6th-round pick to the Saints, and a 7th-round pick to the Saints.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I mean, other than that, like you said, we had 5 picks. I think we were a little strategic in what we did. I agree. I'm not mad at it. So let's start with the obvious. We had the 29th overall pick, and we took Josh Connerly Jr., Oregon. I gave the pick an A. I'll let you take the floor on this. But what did you think of this? What did you think of this pick?
No, I absolutely loved it. I gave it an A too. I didn't see this. And you were there with us on draft night when, you, I, and Will were kind of like, this is interesting. But I kind of look at this like last year, this is what we wanted. We wanted a left tackle. We ended up getting a quarterback, which hindsight's 2020. We saw how this year went. We came into this offseason not having a legitimate tackle. Now we have 2 after we were able to draft Josh Connerly and then obviously get Laremy Tunsil from the Texans in that trade. Looking at it now, it's just like, we have pretty legitimate line. So I'm absolutely loving this pick. Love his size. I believe 6'6", 315. He gave up, I believe, 1 sack a year ago, and then the year before, I think he also gave up maybe 1 sack. And I think that his offensive line as a whole 2 years ago gave up like 5 sacks. He gave up like something like 5 hurries or something. Just absolutely ridiculous numbers. Love what he does and look forward to seeing what he can contribute to us. I mean, protecting the investment. So I love this.
Absolutely. I agree. I do want to kind of kill this noise a little bit. I feel like Brandon Coleman's kind of the odd man out on this group. I look at more of it as depth. Eventually, with Tunsil, I know he's technically, at one point was the highest paid offensive lineman. And, the biggest thing was we needed to really, if you watched those last 7 games for Washington, JD5 took about at least 10 sacks in 3 of those last 4 regular season games. Right. And his sack percentage was something like around 7%. I looked at that stat. I still remember that stat from somewhere. I can't remember where it was. But the running backs, we couldn't even get less than 2 yards before they got touched, which was like 29th or 30th.
Yeah. And
I think with Tunsil on one side, and then you put now Josh on one side, you got Tyler, and then let's not forget Sam Kasimi, and we're still forgot to let and then remember Nick Allegretti, we signed him, and that's a bit of a strong offensive line. That's not saying Brandon can't be mixed in there. I think it's more depth. I think Brandon still has a lot of potential. He's young. It's only his 2nd year. So I think, we're looking at it more of we need to get the biggest thing is because if you're the left tackle, I value left tackles, and you need a strong left tackle. There's not too many Laremy Tunsils, Ronnie Stanleys out there like that because they're all starting to kind of, they're getting up there in age. So, and at some point too, Josh will move over to the left, and Brandon will probably play right tackle. Who knows?
Could be.
Yeah, but I like it because especially, I just wanted to kill that noise. I don't think he hurts his development whatsoever. So let's go into the 6th round. Sixth round. The 2nd round, we have the 61st overall pick. We went to the SEC. We took Trey Imos from Ole Miss, which I thought we needed to really, really work on because our defense was, especially corners, that was something. and it looks like we're going to run it back with Marshall Lattimore, but we've pretty much ran the table with what we had gotten last couple of drafts. Juice and those guys, it's a wrap, honestly. So I think, will he start? Not right away, because we did get Jonathan Jones, and then we got Sansil.
Samerstill, yeah.
Samerstill, thank you. Who can more than likely be on the outside. So he could potentially compete. But I mean, I kind of see Trey as a nickel in this defense. That's my only concern. So it's just kind of knowing where he's. Is he a one? Is he a two slot? What are your thoughts?
I think he can start. I mean, shout out to Will. Shout out to my co-host Will Kramer on Washington Football Weekly. This is the guy that Will wanted in the first round, and the fact that he was able to get him in the second round is obviously great. Great size at 6'3", I believe 195. I mean, the guy can cover. He can play bump and run. Like, I think he can be the number one dude, and then you put Samerstill where he's more comfortable in the slot. With that being said, I gave this a B because there was some questions, not all around the league, but in certain teams with, I guess, a back injury that he has sustained. And that's one of the reasons why he kind of slipped into the second round. And at the same time, I'm a little scarred from the last SEC cornerback that we had in Emmanuel Forbes. So let me wait and see what Trey Amos does. But if Will is correct and this guy is as good as advertised, man, I definitely see him opposite of Lattimore, and let's get Samerstill and some of those other guys to support him. And I like what I see from this guy. I mean, what I potentially will see from this guy.
I agree. I think his movement and his processing skills, I think he should exceed well in zone for Washington. I will say, to add on to what you were saying, because he also I don't know if you remember the corner that Tennessee drafted a few years ago out of Virginia. Was it Caleb Farley?
Yeah, it could have been. He got hurt. Yeah.
Just the injuries. Yeah, thank you. It just, with him, he's also not a clean tackler, too. But I think those are things that I think will get better as he progresses within coming into training camp, preseason, and then going into the regular season. So
I agree.
Then we went into the fourth round with the 128th overall pick. I went to Virginia Tech, not too far from where you are, sir. Jalen Lane. I actually like this pick. We needed a little bit more speed. Now we have Debo and Terry. I'm a little. I like to see where we're going to go with this. But we did. Now I'm a little like him. That with Jalen, Luke McCaffrey, like there's going to be some competition. Who's going to be that third receiver? So it's going to be interesting. But I like him here for us. He ran a 4.3. He did play the first 3 years. I remember it was at Middle Tennessee. He could be a returner for us too. So I think this is a good steal for us.
Yeah, I think the fact that he dropped so far is definitely huge. He's somebody that the scouts were very interested in, and actually when they came into the third day, and the kind of the staff was asking the scouts, like, who do you guys think? Who would you recommend getting? And about 60% of them went with this guy. So I love it, man. He has the ability to stretch the defense. He's got that type of speed. You talked about 4.3 in the 40, but he's also one of those guys that you can hit in one of those quick screens, those bubbles. I think this would be a perfect replacement for Jahan Dotson. I mean, we've been trying to replace I wouldn't say replace that production over the last couple of years, but we remember his first year with Carson Wentz. He had 6 receiving touchdowns in his rookie year. So, even though he didn't pan out, that's kind of what we were looking for. And then you have a Terry, and you have a Debo, and Ertz too, who's a great receiver in his part. So you're going to give a lot of attention to those different guys, and I think you slip this guy in the slot, and it reminds me of like a McMillan for Tampa Bay, where you have Godwin, you have Evans, and then McMillan's that next guy that can just come out and beat you up the seam or something like that. So I love this. I like this pick. And to the point that you were talking about special teams, Crowder. We've been kind of trying to rely on him. He's been hurt a little bit here and there. We know Olamide Zaccheaus was at that spot, and he fumbled the ball a couple times or bobbled it, and it was really just hard to watch at times. And then, if we go back to training camp, the Mitchell Tinsleys and the Casimir Allens, so we really have not been able to have a legitimate return guy since Crowder. I mean, Eckler, he returned it, I think, once or twice, and once he took it all the way back, but they called it back. So this would definitely be something that if we can solidify this as a return guy, I think this, and on top of the wide receiving, I would give this an A because of that. Because he has that flexibility, he has the speed. We could put him in certain situations and have Cliff draw things up for him. But then also he could be like our Turpin, like the Cowboys have.
I agree.
Let this be on a return and just let his speed take over. So let's see what he can do.
For sure. I agree with that. Most definitely. We're going to go to the 6th round. We were definitely skipping. Again, we had a good amount of 5th rounds, and I guess you consider this our next 5th round pick, and that was Kane Madrano out of UCLA. I actually like this pick because the one thing Washington definitely needed was some depth behind Bobby Wagner and Frankie Levu. We do have Jordan McGee and Dominic Hampton who are running their second year, but you need a little bit more versatility. I believe at the combine, I think Kane ran a 4.4. Which is the fastest actually amongst all the linebackers that were there. He actually could be like a Jordan Simmons role, linebacker and slash safety hybrid role, which would be interesting to watch. So that's something to definitely watch for sure. If for Washington fans, I mean, he did play 6 years. The last 2 years was when we really got to see a lot of tape on him. That's my only concern a little bit. And the 6 years and the last 2 years was a full-time starter. I'm curious to see with him as his versatility and his style. Because we need a coverage, a linebacker that can cover the middle, and if we can get someone like that, like with this, I think it's a solid pick.
Yeah, and I think going back to the last guy we're talking about, this guy is also going to be a potential special teams guy. And that I think could definitely benefit us. That's somewhere where I think he can make the team. But I'm really excited for this guy, because he's worked with Ken Norton Jr., our linebackers coach, so they have familiarity. So it's always good coming in house knowing somebody. And the fact that you talk about his speed and you talk about the last 2 years at UCLA when he dominated. Those last 2 years he was voted team captain. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think, piggybacking on last year with, McGee and Samerstill, who were both team captains in their respective teams. Bringing in another guy like this is a culture guy. He's familiar with some of the coaching staff, so kind of familiar with kind of a direction that we're going. And, he's got speed. And I think you said it right, that he's got that strong safety kind of build. I think this guy could be our Buffalo nickel. Somebody that could play safety, but who could also come down in the box and set the edge and really play a really beneficial role in our defense. So and put us in advantageous situations. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I would, if I'm grading it, I think I would give it a B plus, because it's all still speculation. You know,
sure.
to your point, we until the last couple of years we hadn't seen him, and the fact that he has played 6 years. You know, I made the argument the other night that if guys played that much longer, you know, he's coming in kind of like a team that goes through the wild card and then through the divisional. They've been playing games, so they're fresh, they're ready to go. You know, this guy's been playing for 6 years, so he's ready to play. My worry is how much tread is on those tires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but again, I like the pick for all the points that I made. Oh, you know, all the things that I said about it. But we'll see. We'll see. It was still a 6th round pick, so we'll see how much that pans out.
For sure. I actually predict. I meant to also say this for with him. I predict he'll make the 53-man roster, as well. I can actually see him starting a couple games towards the end of the season. This next pick is actually, I think he's going to make the roster. I think it's going to be the number 3 running back on the depth chart, and that is Mr. Ja'Cory Korsky-Merman out of Arizona. We had him with the 7th in the 7th round with the 245th overall pick, because we definitely needed some more depth behind Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, and Jeremy McNichols, and then there's Chris Rodriguez, because they're all free agents after this upcoming season. So I kind of look at it. Well, one of them has to be re-signed, but all of them have questions. But that's a whole other subject for another video. But with Ja'Cory, I think, looking at the tape, he played at New Mexico, where he rushed for about over 1,000 yards. He ran a 4.4 for his pro day, which is the fastest amongst the running backs. So I'm actually kind of see what he'll look like. Now, he didn't play when in Arizona. He missed one game at Arizona. He only played one game because of something about his redshirt year, where there was some confusion. So, other than that, I think we really got to steal with him. I just think, to me, like with the injuries last year, Jerry McNichols and Chris Rodriguez, I think they're good, but you need a guy with some speed. But also, too, in fairness, that offensive line did not help covering those issues. But I think Ja'Cory could make the roster. I think he could be the number 3 guy behind Brian Austin, in my opinion. What do you think?
Oh yeah, man. Korsky-Merman is got speed. The guy's got ability. This guy's, he can navigate in the hole. He can be somebody that takes one cut and go, or he's somebody that can sit there and stretch it and take it all the way back across the field. Like, he's got the speed to do it. He's got the maneuverability. He dropped so far, obviously, because of the eligibility issue. And if I'm not mistaken, what ended up happening is him and another player had the same number, and then he ended up, giving it to the other player, and then, left the team. And, when the NCAA looked back on, they were like, well, right. They were like, wait a minute, you can't do that. So they took his eligibility, which is BS, but the NCAA does what they do. So, at the end of the day, like, the fact that he did not play last year because of that might have been the biggest blessing for us, because this guy, to your point, he's a solid running back. He had over 1,100 yards, I think 17 touchdowns that year before New Mexico. So the guy's got a great ability to play. And I agree. I think the consensus is that he's going to, at the very least, challenge for that number 3 spot or around there, and if we can get him in Cliff's offense, and you got Cliff drawing up plays for him, man, I'm very excited to see And then I mean, you go with this. You got to give this. I like it B+. You know, I could easily give it an A if I wanted to just be nice. But the fact that we were able to get this guy in the 7th round, you know, and on one side you look at it as like, you know, he lost the year of eligibility, only played 1 game. The other side you look at it, he's coming into the NFL fresh. You know, no injuries. He hasn't really had to. He didn't play last year, so obviously. But I think what a lot of people saw in the East-West Shrine Bowl game was, you know, their eyes were open because we knew the guy could play, but when he got to be put on that spotlight, on that pedestal, he showed out. So I'm eager to see what he does. It definitely makes me excited in May. Come talk to me again in August, September, and you know, we'll go from there.
Absolutely, I agree. But also to add on to that, this, in my opinion, I think this draft class had produced some great running back talent.
I agree.
Because especially the last, I'd say, in my opinion, maybe last decade or so, we've, you know, particularly how the media has really kind of downplayed the value of running backs, and to see the upward trend of, you know, I think this class really produced some steals, for sure.
Absolutely.
But my final analyst, when we broke down these 5 picks of what we had, that'll go with the 2 that we now officially watch, the Commanders. I gave them as an A. I just think we prioritized the protection of JD5, but I also too think we kind of gave another speedy weapon to give them to. We kind of build the depth of another running back. We needed to really work on the depth of our linebacking core, our secondary. I'd have liked us to address edge, but I think we're going to address that with free agency. We still got the part 2 because remember we got the June 1st post cuts. So, you know, there's still plenty of moves to be made there. So I still think Washington will make some moves, but you know, when you have 5 picks, you have to be very strategic. But I think they're okay. I like what they did, but I all 5 picks. I mean, to me, they'll get an A. Take Washington gets A for me.
For me, I'm gonna give them a little room. B-.
Okay.
I think what they ended up doing. Hold on. What they with the 5 picks, absolutely, but you know, we got to think like who realistically maybe the first 2 guys will potentially start. I mean, let's see what Jalen Lanes end up doing, and you know, Medrano at this point, Medrano and Krosky Merritt are going to be special teams guys. So, you know, you with the 5 picks and with what you did, I mean, I think it's fine, and I'm nitpicking. You know what I mean? I'm nitpicking because I want room to improve, but I think it was good overall with what we did, but part of it is, you know, I did want to get more picks, and I didn't even know all the picks that we traded away or that went to different places or that we got and then went elsewhere. You know, I didn't even realize that, but yeah, I like what we did, but I could have done better. But again, I'm nitpicking.
Sure. For sure. I understand. I mean, and I'll mention with Baltimore's draft. I think we could have a little better as well for the Ravens as well. But I mean, again, when you have 5 picks, and I mean,
only so much you can do.
There's only so much you could do. Like, and if we had maybe like another 5th, we had a 5th round pick, even the 3rd round pick, it's like, okay, it's a little bit more, there's a little wiggle room. But it's like, and on top of that too, by the like 1st round, I would say from like 16 down, at that point it was best available.
That's true.
So
I agree with that.
So yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into actually one final thought of the podcast. We don't actually have a commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. That's a first for me. No, I'm just kidding. Let's get to one final thought, ladies and gentlemen.
Thoughts are running through my mind,
So it took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
All right. The one final thought. First and foremost, we all know it's graduation season. So I'd like to congratulate the class of 2025. I know I got to see not in person, but I know especially the University of Maryland College Park had Kermit the Frog as its commencement speaker.
I heard about that.
But particularly Alex Cora. If you don't know who Alex Cora is a former Major League Baseball player. I remember him particularly playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers, but he's a manager for the Boston Red Sox. Took some heat, quote unquote, recently for all the wrong reasons. So his daughter recently graduated from Boston College. He missed Monday's game. The Red Sox were playing the Mets, and there was a local radio host. It's Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub. His name is Mike Felger. Never heard of him. And I quote, he considered Alex Cora missing the game kind of a preposterous excuse. Quote, they were done, I believe, by noon, which means you could have a nice big party in the middle of the day, just catch a cab down the street and manage the game. Then goes on to say, it's just the tone you set, an example you set for the team. It's not like they need him to make the pitching change or lay down the bunt. It's the leadership and optics of the whole thing. It's a very easy chance for him to say nothing's important than tonight's game. So he responded the next day with, and I quote, she wanted me to be there with her. It was her day, so this was secondary. We're in this world for a purpose. And for me to raise her and try to be the best we can do. We can't. Obviously, it wasn't perfect, but right now it's perfect. Everyone contributed. For her, she was very anxious, having the whole family in town, like we told her. Anything for her to be able to listen to her and how she thought about the whole day, the whole week, the whole 4-year experience. There were a whole lot of emotions. It's a day. I wasn't going to miss it the whole day. There's coaches that take 3 days for that. It just so happens we were here in Boston, so I took one. And I went really, he goes on to say for a girl from divorced parents, her mom did an amazing job. And of course, while I was playing and coaching, doing my ESPN thing, she's a reflection of her. I appreciate everything she's done for us, for her and us. Now she's not a little girl. She's a woman. She had fun with it. She's a great student, and the future's bright for her. And painfully, the Orioles did. We played the Orioles. They played us today. The Orioles. We did win one, but they pummeled us a couple nights ago. We lost earlier today too because of the doubleheader. But no, my one fun thought is that first of all, congratulations to his daughter on graduating. But I thought it was silly that we're making a fuss of him celebrating a moment with his daughter, mind you, her moment, not his. You're a parent first, manager second. You could apply that with any job. I look at graduations, weddings. Those are moments that you want to be there, especially like kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. You were at my graduation, Sean. You met my folks. You met my peoples. So it's a moment that you want your loved ones to be there. And I'm a little disappointed that a radio host would not think of going, hey, you know what? It's one game. Because Ramon Vasquez took over, former baseball player himself. It's one game. It's not like he took 2 weeks off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think if I remember correctly, there was a baseball player, and it's different, but I can't remember who it was. But his wife, this was years ago. Wife had given birth, and he took longer than expected off with paternity leave. Because I think Major League Baseball gives you a certain amount of days off, and he took longer, and the people had an issue with that. Well, he's a dad first.
Right.
Baseball's going to be there. Same thing with this. So I just thought that was silly. to make that such a big deal. Because,
Right.
like, suppose, because you have to think also too, if you read it, like, you know, him playing baseball, you know, he and his wife, you know, unfortunately got divorced. So you got to think about she keeping the bridge together, making sure getting through school. Those 4 years, years of college is not an easy journey, ladies and gentlemen. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to just talk about that. And again, congratulations to her from Boston College. Great school, by the way. But one game to celebrate his daughter's moment. Come on. I don't even know.
Serious.
I mean, it's not that serious. If he was, I don't know if he's a parent. I don't know Mike Felger from a can of paint. He would do. I promise you, he would have done the same thing.
And they were playing us, weren't they? Weren't they playing the Orioles?
They were playing the Mets Monday.
Oh, okay.
Because her graduation was Monday, so he came back Tuesday, and he basically, honestly, I don't even know why he even had to respond to the comments, because it's like,
right.
Well, I mean, because most in my mind, I'm like, it's his daughter's graduation,
right?
I mean, yeah, that's my one final thought. But congratulations to his daughter, future endeavors, all those different things like that. Do you have one final thought?
That one's pretty crazy. I don't know why they would be having an issue. Sometimes these people, especially these announcers and radio people, they take stuff too serious. So that's ridiculous. For me, I'll go and with that same little bit of fire. Obviously, this is more in your wheelhouse. Everybody now seems to be a journalist. Everybody now seems to be an analyst that seems to want to add their 2 cents about the WNBA, and then obviously it's the names as Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. If you go anywhere near ESPN or YouTube or Facebook or any of that, you've seen, obviously the backlash from Robert Griffin, his remarks on Angel Reese, who he thinks apparently hates Caitlin Clark, and Ryan Clark came out and said, it might not be something you need to speak on, because speaking on the feelings of Black women while you are not with one is kind of, people feel some type of way about it. He had a point, but he did say, talk about man's wife, and as Will Smith showed us,
yeah.
keep my wife's name out your mouth, what I mean? Yeah. Well, and I don't think it's going to go to that place. And I was actually really impressed with what Ryan Clark eventually said and how he addressed it. But what I wanted to address is something that he was talking about, is that his family got a lot of backlash for that. His family was not involved in any of that. That was Ryan Clark's words. Ryan Clark spoke directly to RG3. They have a history that goes beyond us. They played together. They know each other. So we have to understand there's that dynamic, but then we also have to understand these are 2 ex-football players that I guarantee you have not been the biggest WNBA fans, have not been sitting here as the people that we call up on a TV show, to give their expert analysis. These are 2 people that are just talking about an incident they saw. Was it overblown? Absolutely, it was overblown. This is a foul. This is something that happens. If you look at any game, these type of things happen all the time. Angel Reese got up and was upset about it because she thought it was BS. Whatever, that's your opinion. This is basketball. This is what happens. The backlash that they both got from that, to me, it's unwarranted, and I'm speaking more for the Angel Reese side of it, because I've seen more people attack her game and her character and her just anything that she does, and they have no clue about what's her skill set. They have no clue about how dominant is she. I've seen people say, "Oh man, look at her, she's terrible. She can't make a layup," and then totally overlooking the fact that, yeah, she just hit 5 straight rebounds. Oh, well, she missed the shot. Oh, well, what does the stat sheet say? Yeah, she missed the shot, but she's not a sharpshooter. She's not somebody that's going out here. There are parts to her game that need to be improved. What are we talking about?
To add on to that, you make a very great point. But also for her, and I'm also going to add Camila Cardoso into that. Look at how both of them, since they came in the league together, they are practically developing on their own. There's no vet behind them, nor a true coaching staff. I'm not saying this coaching staff cannot do those things, but in order for, I think, those two to be successful, I think there's got to be some things that got to change. I think it's got to be how the offense is structured around them, and you got to make sure they're properly developed with some veterans. You got to have veterans behind young players. They came into a franchise where it's put on their shoulders.
Right.
No one, I want to make this clear. Not saying they can't handle that, but when you're a young franchise rebuilding, there should be some leadership. Leadership matters. Right. And I mean, I'm looking at the games. Chicago doesn't have that at all.
Well, yeah. And that's the other side to a lot of this, is that a lot of people are saying their 2 cents without any type of knowledge of these teams, of the breakdown, of the depth. And you're speaking out of turn, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of people that really just want to take a side, Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese. Look, these are 2 entirely different athletes. What Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA, yes, we're glad she brought all of that attention. She is as good. She is that good. But there's also games where she's not that good and she's not dominating. There are times when some defenders will check her and she gets all up in her feelings, but I don't see any of her fans coming out and saying X, Y, and Z and saying, you know what I mean? They're attacking other people. So I really want us to be cautious, especially when shout out to Cam Newton, who was talking about it, and he said, look, we're all going to talk about it because it's entertainment. People want to see it talked about. People want to see stuff like this be debated and everything. And hey, I have nothing wrong with that. That's how you and I have a job, essentially. But at the end of the day, we have to realize that where we are calling this, where we are analyzing this, is not the beginning of the story. This is just this moment. So far be it from us to sit here and overlook everything that it took for them to get to this point, just for you to sit here and give your 2 cents, like your 2 cents matter. And then let's be very honest with this. The only 2 opinions that matter are those two people who are going out here and putting all of this on their back. There's valid reasons why they're frustrated. There's also valid reasons why a lot of the hate goes to Angel Reese. You and I talked about it. She claimed that villain card. And once you give people you give people ammunition, you cannot be upset that they shot you.
Right. You know what I mean? Too, in fairness, sports, I wish that's the one that I don't like about sports, is that there has to be a villain, and it shouldn't have to be.
That's true.
I think, look, for example, like in baseball, right? Growing up, me growing up personally, the Red Sox and the Yankees, those 2 teams hated each other. I mean, I think to this day still don't. I mean, the rivals. But it sucks that, that's unfortunately that's what sells, and then my article again, which again, I'll take it on TeamNBSMedia.com, sensationalism over where that's what we're prioritizing now in media. That's that's disappointing. And I mean, and again, and not saying, and even to add on to what you were saying, when you come into a space to learn and educate yourself. Right. No one is saying like you can't come into space at all. Like if I went into a hockey space or a tennis space, not lacking the knowledge, people gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm coming to space to learn, just making sure, hey, like, okay, all right, cool. Like with those 2, particularly RG3 and Ryan Clark, like you're coming into a space already, and I'm Ryan Clark. I mean, I know he interviewed Angel and Flage on his podcast when they won the national championship, but
Right.
it's like, especially with Ryan, like, okay, if I just came in the NFL space and you said something ignorant, do you know how many people in the NFL space would come at me and go, "What are you talking about? That's ignorant."
Right.
Saying it with the NBA side. I mean, look, LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith is a great example. Look how many people, all different spaces, talked about it.
Right.
And really, and look what it, and look how it made it, and look how it grew, and it kind of really went beyond that it needed to be.
Took on a life of his own.
Yeah. So I just think that, again, with both players, like, they have talked about, they have respect for each other as opponents.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into, and we don't have to talk about sports. When you go into a 9 to 5, your job is not to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
You get hired to do a job.
Get it done. Right.
Right. Like, I mean, hi, how you doing? You can have conversations and stuff, but people, like, come on, like, no, I'm here to get a job done.
Right.
Like, I was hired for a reason.
Right.
And
that's my problem. Look, we're not here, we're not here to entertain you. Essentially, we have the job done. They brought here for that, and the fact that she doesn't have a veteran backup, or somebody that can help her with that is just that much.
I think they do, but their front court is thin. I mean, they have Elizabeth Williams and they have another. I think it's Maddie Westbell, but that's not. They could do more. But again, that's front office. So I admit that starts up here, because anything.
But that's credit towards Reese and doing what she can with what she can. And then my whole thing, and this, I'll wrap it up this way, is just saying, I want all those people that are coming at Angel Reese to give that same energy when Angel Reese does well, or when Caitlin Clark comes out here and lays an egg like she did the other day. Like, don't sit here and continue to bash people indiscriminately, or just straight discriminate, just going after the one person, and not because she's just going after the one person. You need to sit here and truly, if you're going to talk about this, pay attention to it and stop just with this headlines nonsense and picking this one thing and going with it. It really is starting to get under my skin how people just don't care about it. It's one thing if you watch it and you're talking about it. If you really don't care and you just jump in on and keep bashing with like other people who are already bashing, I know that's the society, and like you said, sensationalism, the debates, that's what everybody loves. But it's I'm opposed to it, and I don't care if nobody else says anything about it. I'm going to say something about it because
I hear you.
It's ridiculous. These are human beings.
Yep, and that's another thing too. Like, and we can. I mean, I'm leaving it off with this. Like, like some of the things like I've seen where Angel's getting dogged and disrespected on. I'm watching in real time a well-known music producer, rapper, literally getting defended for the things he did. But what do I know?
Yeah.
But it just, I actually, that's a really good one. Final thought, Sean. I think, I think if the last couple of days, it started to kind of simmer down. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it was when I looked at that article, like it took me like a day to like write it, but after, but also too, again, was opening weekend, WNBA basketball, great basketball, yes. And that was kind of overshadowed because of that one moment, story. And and again, we still got plenty of basketball, and again, both are great players and what they do, and they're going to bring a lot to the table for the future. They're going to be the next chapter of women's basketball,
right.
And so forth. And also too, they are human. Athletes are human. That's not just with the WNBA. That's with the NFL. That's with Major League Baseball. That's with hockey. That's with college. Period. Athletes are human. So I think sometimes there are some that forget that. So
totally agree. Yo, shout out to the T-Wolves. T-Wolves kept themselves alive, got the W.
They needed that win.
Big time. Because they was getting ran out the building.
They had like a 31-point lead going into halftime.
They needed it. Yeah. One looking good.
I still think the Knicks and the Pacers are going to go to 7 games. I do. I don't think the series is over. I don't. I just question.
What's the next thing you're gonna say? The Wizards going to the playoffs next year?
I think
that make me crazy.
No, I mean, if you watch, I don't know why he took that shot. That was wild. I wouldn't have took that shot. But no, I think their defense and Tibbs is gonna make sense. He's got to really, really coach, make some adjustments, do something. So
that the first game, when Halliburton stepped back, the thing went all the way up. I've seen so many balls that bounce off the rim, go all the way up, and they go behind the rim, or they go, to have it come back down was. Sometimes better to be lucky than good, but how close are we to potentially, this thing being just a little bit different? So, hey, the Knicks, they're here, but last year they lost to what? Didn't last year they lose to the Celtics? And to get to this,
they lost to
before. No, to get to into the divisional.
I think it was Indiana.
Indiana got to the. It was Indiana Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, but in the second round, wasn't it the Knicks and the
Heat?
Celtics?
Yes, it was the Celtics.
Last year, yes. Yeah. So they got one step further this year, but we'll see if the Knicks can pull it out. But might be the year for the Pacers.
Yeah, I know. I don't think the series is over. I don't. I think it's going to go to 7 games because it's kind of the same thing with the Pistons series.
Now, technically, I can't, and I kind of like the Knicks, but technically I can't go for the Knicks because the Knicks essentially have the Villanova team that beat my North Carolina team in the national championship. So Brunson and all y'all jokers can go somewhere because I'm still bitter. Goodness. I'm still bitter. Just saying.
Oh,
you see what it is. You see what it is. Come on.
Oh, actually, one other thing before I have you on while we're on here. So obviously the Olympics is going to be here in 2028, and we're getting our flag football. What are your thoughts on that?
It's exciting, I guess. We've always wanted to add in football in some way, shape, or form to the Olympics. I think the problem is that the Olympics is a global games, and I'm just not too aware of how many other countries really play professional football. You know what I mean? And now, mind you, we're talking about flag. We're not talking about NFL. We're not talking about fully padded and all that type of stuff. So I talked about this. There are some flag teams that are pretty legit, around the world and that, win championships and things of that nature. I think the biggest question is going to be who is going to be on our team? Who is this going to be a situation where it is the best of the best, the Patrick Mahomes, the Justin Jeffersons of the world? Or is this a situation where it's our top college stars? Will our top stars kind of opt out? What is it going to be? And what's the competition going to be like? Is Canada going to field a team? You know what I mean? So I think right now, obviously, there's so many more questions than answers. But I think the biggest kind of concern is when you have, we're finally in the boat that you guys are in, where you have your investment, you have your quarterback. Do I really want my quarterback potentially playing flag football? and maybe hyperextending or tearing something just for a medal. I don't know, man.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
No, I get it. I mean, the only thing is my concern is 28. I mean, it's 4 years from now. So,
True.
well, 3 years
True.
in a way. But so, the fact that NFL players are allowed to participate, just who would do it?
Right.
I know probably like a guy like Justin Jefferson. I know for sure would definitely do it. Travis Hunter could possibly do it. Could Lamar, Patrick Mahomes. I can see a guy like Jamar Chase, in there somewhere. But again, it's all about the Olympics is putting your best talent out there.
Right.
Like I used basketball for example for us. My dad told me, before the dream team, we just had amateurs. We had collegiate, and then we had a couple amateur professional players out there. But every time we would get pummeled by grown professional athletes. People forget that when was 04, we won bronze. But also there's a lot of context into that. But that team had a young LeBron, young Melo, but
that was a young team.
But I mean, still to win with Tim Duncan, I believe it was. I think Stephon Marbury may have been on that team. But again, it just I think putting your best out there. Now, I'm curious to see how it will go with the countries, but like you said, but I would like to give it a try.
I'll tell you one thing. I just need it to be better than whatever that breakdancing nonsense they tried to bring out there.
Oh no, they got to get rid of that. Nah.
If it's some halfway, flag football nonsense, I'm like, nah, I don't do that. Because I haven't even gotten over this whole flag football and the Pro Bowl thing. You know what I mean? Like I guess I understand it, but I'm not. I'm not for that shit.
Well, in fairness, we could go back to old school, but I don't think we want to see another example of what Sean Taylor did to that punter. Was it Mormon? Rest in peace, Sean Taylor. But no, but I mean, again, but also you could sprinkle in a couple amateur flag football players. There's a guy who's well known. He's very famous, a flag football player. He would, I think he would do really well. I forgot his name, but he's very, he's popular. I see him trending on TikTok, YouTube, even on Twitter. He'd be great for Team USA.
The interesting question is, seeing as in a lot of these high schools they're doing flag, and women's flag football is become pretty big. So I wonder, I mean, is this just a male flag football thing? Is this going to be a women's potentially flag football in the Olympics? I think that can. I mean, that's definitely something to ask, to look into.
For sure. No, I agree. Most definitely. What you got coming down the pipe for Let's Talk Football?
I believe we're going to be doing Let's Talk Football breaking news coming up soon, and Washington Football Weekly maybe next week. I know College Football Update will definitely be coming on Tuesday. So we'll be there with that. There was something else that I wanted to tell you, but I think I forgot it. I'll let it go. But yeah, we're keeping it simple. Coming down the stretch. We're already in May, going to June. So, training camp, OTAs, all that stuff's right around the corners, and preseason and all that stuff is not too far off. So definitely excited about that. We'll definitely be talking about some stuff in the near future.
I'm excited. Can't wait. For me, ladies and gentlemen, just stay tuned for the Ravens draft breakdown. We'll talk about that. Week 2 of the WNBA is approaching as of this upcoming Monday. The Washington Mystics, they play the Phoenix Mercury tomorrow. So far, we're 2-2 on the year. Started off 2-0. We lost to the Las Vegas Aces on a go-ahead 3. I don't know why Sika Kone was helping on the strong side, but that's okay. But yeah, that game is on tomorrow against Phoenix Mercury. And this is another thing too. The schedule is another one. It's kind of like because I know we're in a FIBA year too. It's Euro basketball,
Right. Yeah.
So so definitely stay tuned in with that. Maryland Sports Blog. I know I gotta get some content out for them. But check them out as well. Follow me on Twitter, and also too I have the episode for 450. Episode 450 that'll be out as well. I promise I'll have that uploaded, and I'll have some other shorts and stuff of the NFL draft grades, WNBA draft grades, all that stuff like that up on the YouTube channel as well. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our official content. I'll have Sean's YouTube channel where you can check him out. Let's Talk Football. That I'm also a part of as well. In the description below as well. I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope you all make sure you have your charcoal, have your hamburgers, have your hot dogs, have your fireworks. I hope you have a very safe Memorial Day weekend. Stay dry, stay safe. And again, May's almost over. I cannot believe after this week, we're going into June. And before you know it, it's going to be summer. And yeah, it'll be something. AJ, get us out of here, man. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We out of here. Peace. Stay up.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you.